New iPod touches, Microsoft CEO does personal tech support, and we talk to astronaut, Everest climber, and ER Dr. Scott Parazynski about Pluto. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 381 for Wednesday, July 15th, 2015. This episode of Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay, period. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/TechNight. Welcome, I am Megan Maroney. Let's get to today's big news. Today, NASA released more images of the icy face of Pluto, photos that have taken more than 10 years to capture. As we reported yesterday, the New Horizons spacecraft completed its flyby of my favorite non-planet yesterday. And today I am thrilled to welcome Dr. Scott Parazynski, who is not only an astronaut, but also a physician, an Everest climber, a pilot, and an inventor. Dr. Parazynski has flown 5 space shuttle missions. He's completed 7 spacewalks. On one mission, he was charged with repairing a fully energized solar array wing where he was positioned by a 90-foot robotic boom farther away than any orbiting astronaut has ever ventured from the safety of their airlock. In total, Dr. Parazynski has spent 8 weeks in space and 47 hours outside in spacewalks. He's traveled over 23 million miles in orbit. Dr. Scott Parazynski, welcome to Tech News Tonight.
Great to be with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, those pictures of Pluto are amazing. For those not following the story, the New Horizons took 9 years, over 3 billion miles, and this morning it came within 7,800 miles of the surface of Pluto. The spacecraft has no astronauts aboard. It's about the size of a piano. What were some of your thoughts when you first saw these photos?
Stunning and staggering. It's unbelievable to me that this mission was envisioned over a decade ago. A huge travel time, 3 billion miles to get to the target, and it hit it perfectly on target and is requiring images that are staggering. The environment of Pluto is much different than I ever imagined. It's a very dynamic, very young surface, as we've learned based on the lack of craters on the surface. And what a brilliant accomplishment. There aren't many ventures where you invest that far in the future, and the staying power, the resilience to finally see it through. And look at these images of ice mountains the size of the Rockies on the surface of Pluto. Better than science fiction, really. It
really is amazing. I mean, the last images we saw were from the Hubble telescope. That was in the 90s. I mean, they're 2 orange dots. Basically, that's what we saw. So did you imagine that we would get this close so soon after that?
I did not. And to have the resolution not only of Pluto, but the entire system with all of its moons, Sharon, of course, in great detail. It's out of all this data. It's not just the photos that we've seen so far, but it's the spectroscopy, looking at the chemical composition of the planetary system here, and then perhaps even a mission extension. Perhaps after we get all the data back from Pluto, the spacecraft is, of course, on a very rapid trajectory outside of our solar system to get into the Kuiper Belt and to see other objects of opportunity. It's going to be very, very exciting.
What's their planned next pictures that we're supposed to see? Do you know?
I think we're going to continue to see photographic details. We've seen some of the very first pass, but the spacecraft gathered literally hundreds of photographs, but also at a deeper level from other sensors on board the spacecraft, the chemical signatures of the surface, and down to quite fine resolution, I believe about 5-meter resolution. So to see what this place is made of, methane ice, water ice, who knows what we're going to really establish.
It's really difficult to even imagine how far away Pluto is from us. I know I was looking through your tweets and you posted just a website that kind of envisioned it. I know in San Francisco we have the Exploratorium, which sort of has an idea where they're so tiny. It is so far away. I mean, can you imagine never traveling that far?
I personally cannot. To have a 10-year one-way trip to get any place, that's a real commitment. But I do think that it's human destiny to visit Mars, and that will be a committing venture as well. And I would hope that in our lifetimes, hopefully in the next 15 or 20 years, in fact, that we're going to be sending the first cruise to Mars. And depending on the method of travel, it could take from a few months to a year one way to get to the red planet. But it's so important for our humanity, I think, to understand the environment of Mars and whether life once existed there. Maybe it even exists to this day. And so I think there's some fundamental questions of our humanity that need to be answered by sending crews out there.
So what effects do you see this mission having in terms of raising awareness for the importance of this? I mean, we've had a lot of, SpaceX is involved. There's a lot less government involvement, but people still get so excited about it. I mean, do you see these images really affecting what people think about what's possible for NASA and other people that are involved in just going up there and seeing as far as we can go?
Yeah, fundamentally, just on a broader level, I think this is a really exciting time to be alive. Not just with New Horizons, but think about the Rosetta Philae mission to the comet that the European Space Agency recently landed and recently came back alive. The exciting things that are happening aboard the International Space Station in discovery there. And then the new commercial human spaceflight enterprise, companies like SpaceX, which you just mentioned, Virgin Galactic, which should be flying its first suborbital clients here in the next year or two. Blue Origin has had some great successes. Of course, there have been some setbacks as well. There have been some launch failures. It's very challenging to break the surly bonds of Earth and get into space. But like I was alluding earlier, it is human destiny. There's a huge role for commercial enterprise here. There's also a role for government agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency and the Russian Space Agency and Canadian and Japanese and so on. Because when we go out and really explore beyond Earth orbit, these are going to be multi-year commitments, very large sums of money. And so I think we should take the best and brightest as well as pooling our resources to go explore these worlds beyond.
So as I said in the intro, you were not only an astronaut, you're a doctor, a pilot, a mountain climber, you're an accomplished scuba diver, an inventor. You did know that one of those would have been amazing enough, right?
Well, I just don't like to watch much TV, so it kind of keeps me busy. But thank you for those kind words.
So tell us about the mission that I spoke about earlier where you fixed the solar array. Was it anything like the scene in Gravity where he's out there fixing, the doctor's out there fixing that, or she?
Sandra did a great job. She had a really, really bad day. I thought my challenging work outside the International Space Station was a bad day, but she took it to a whole nother level. I love the movie, by the way. And if you haven't seen it, shame on you, but it's a great movie. It suspends disbelief in a beautiful way. It's not quite like that, however, and that's all I'll say. But I did love the movie, and everybody should see it. Going out and fixing a solar array is one of those things that you hope you never have to do, because solar panel can't be turned off. It's not like we have a flick of the switch and we can disengage the solar panel. It's always collecting energy, even in orbital night when we're behind the Earth's shadow. It still has current running through its circuit board. So I was at risk of being electrocuted. Any arc energy that might have connected with the metal parts of my spacesuit could have resulted in a very bad day for me. So we had to specially insulate all the metal parts of my suit and all the tools that I was working with, such that I wouldn't be shocked, or that the oxygen within my suit didn't explode, which also would have been an abrupt bad end to the day.
Yeah, for sure. But it was a success.
It was an incredible success for the NASA team. My role was very exciting and very important, but the real brilliant work was done by mission control and engineers on the ground, coming up with an out-of-the-box solution to what seemed to be an impossible problem: how to fix a damaged solar panel at the very end of the space station, further than we had ever traveled before. And it shows once again the capacity of NASA to take things that are seemingly impossible and make them look easy, which they are not.
So speaking of the seemingly impossible, you also climbed Everest. What was more physically challenging, climbing Everest or any of the space launches that you were in?
Well, the interesting thing about flying in space, going outside on a spacewalk is very physically taxing. I won't downplay that to any degree, but when you're inside the space shuttle or the space station, you're in a shirt sleeve environment. You're floating around. It's actually, the physical workload is very easy. In fact, you fly around like Buzz Lightyear wherever you go. You can do flips and spins. You feel like an Olympic gymnast. It's really, really graceful and beautiful. So the physical workload of flying in space is quite easy. So the hardest thing I've ever done personally is actually summiting Mount Everest. It took me 2 tries. The first effort from 24,000 feet above sea level, so that was a very difficult descent for me. And I returned the following year and was successful. So yeah, I would have to say that physically and mentally, the toughest thing I've ever done was my 2 seasons on Everest.
Well, you have an interview that I read online, which was amazing, about your first, that where you had a disc, a slipped disc. Is that you had to have surgery?
That's right.
Afterwards.
Correct.
So it was wonderful what you said about why did you decide that not to turn around and not continue, and it was you said you didn't want to put anyone else at risk, and you really thought it would turn into something that wouldn't have been a good situation, not just necessarily for you, but for everyone that was with you. So I thought that was just an interesting way to look at it. For someone who had been on all these space missions, it must have been very difficult to turn around. But I mean, it seems like you're the kind of person that really understands that you're not just one person.
Absolutely right. No, I think my background at NASA, my training, and just my personal character in exploration is to think about the team first. And I knew that if I pressed on further, I'd not only be jeopardizing my own health and safety, but I could put my teammates into a life or death situation. And so it was very difficult, I'm not going to lie, to be that close to this dream of mine to stand on top of Everest. But having made that decision in 2008, I knew that I would go back to Everest with the right frame of mind, that I wouldn't make the mistake that so many other souls have who still reside on Mount Everest, who made a one-way trip there. It's not about making it to the summit. It's about making a round trip, to the top and back.
Right. So of all your missions, which would you do again, given the chance?
Well, being able to be a part of that solar array repair was a dream come true. To work with that team, I think all of us who, not just Doug Wheelock and myself who were out on the spacewalk, but our entire space shuttle space station crew, the flight control team in Houston, and all the engineers who worked on it, it's a badge of honor that we took part in that repair effort that was completely unscripted. No one could have foretold that we would have to deal with something like that. But another mission that was very special to me was flying with Senator John Glenn on a mission called STS-95 when he returned to flight at age 77. To be there on that flight as his personal physician, kind of a high stress environment. If something happened to Senator John Glenn, I might as well not come back home. But it went very well, and to get a chance to fly with my boyhood hero, I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Well, if you go up again, I'm not a doctor, but I would be happy to play your physician if you go up there again.
There you go, deal.
Okay.
I'll let you. I'll get in touch.
So what are you working on now?
Well, I'm currently at the Arizona State University, where I'm helping build an enterprise called the Ascend Institute. And it's going to be focused on elevating human performance, not just for elite performers, but for outliers. So those even with disabilities who have developed special countermeasures or adaptations to live a more fulfilling life. And so I think by studying outliers or elite performers, we can then leverage the lessons learned to help all the rest of us in between, the average Joes and Janes, as well as those with physical and cognitive disabilities. And so that's my passion in life, to take my background as a physiologist and someone who's worked in extreme environments, and now try and help as many people as I can.
Well, you sound like the perfect person to talk about people in extreme environments and the outliers. Thank you so much for joining us today. Scott Parazinski is at www.parazinski.com, and on Twitter you're at AstroDocScott. And we look forward to hearing more about what you're working on. Thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me today. Really enjoyed speaking with you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Coming up, was Amazon Prime Day a success for you? It was for Amazon. The White House announces the Connect Home and how to combat internet trolls. But first, this episode of Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Braintree, code for easy online payments. If you're a mobile app developer, check out Braintree. Braintree is the payment solution used by companies like Uber, Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, and Munchery. Braintree has made the payment experience in these apps seamless and magical, and now you can add a similar experience to your own app. With excellent customer service and simple integration, Braintree gets you ready to receive payments quickly. And Braintree's continuous support plus fast payouts means you'll be prepared as your company grows from your first dollar to your billionth. Braintree is helping solve the problem of mobile cart abandonment. They offer a best-in-class mobile checkout experience. They give you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want. So right now, you can start accepting PayPal or Apple Pay or Bitcoin or Venmo or cards or anything anyone wants to pay with, all with a single integration across all platforms. With superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/technight. Now on to a few more stories we're following today. Amazon Prime Day, was it a huge success or a miserable failure? That depends on who you ask. Time magazine posted 2 headlines about the online retailer's attempt to sell more things to more people. The first headline simply said, "Everybody hates Amazon Prime Day," which covered the negative tweets about the sales event. But this is Twitter. You could basically look at tweets about anything and say everybody hates it. If you don't believe me, check out the hashtag #IHateCuteBabies. The second time headline came from info from an Amazon press release claiming that Prime Day peak order rates have already surpassed that of Black Friday last year. Now, if you're worried that you missed out on all the deals, don't be. You can still save $26.96 on the battery-powered milking machine for goats, sheep, or cows. Today, Apple announced the new iPod Touch with new colors, including a gold option. The new gadget is available now on Apple.com and retail stores. It includes an 8-megapixel camera, 64-bit A8 processor, and they start at $199 for the 16-gigabyte model. There's a 32-gigabyte version for $250, a 64-gigabyte version for $300, and for the first time ever, a 128-gigabyte model for $400. Today, the White House announced Connect Home, a new initiative to bring internet access to public housing. The program is launching in 27 states and will initially reach 275,000 low-income houses, including nearly 200,000 children. CNET reports that the government is partnering with several organizations in the private and public sectors, including Google Fiber, Best Buy, and the open source project GitHub, which is offering $250,000 to help with digital literacy. Our friend Matt Weinberger at Business Insider posted a piece today about a man who emailed Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella with tech support, and he got an answer. Weinberger says Nadella apologized for the problems the man was having and copied several other people who could help. They had a conference call, and pretty soon after, the problem was fixed. And finally, Owen Williams of the Next Web discovered a creative solution to combat internet trolls on your website. A new JavaScript library called Echo Chamber allows site managers to make abusive comments only show up in the web browser of the person making the comments. EchoChamber.js is a third-party script that will save the comment to the user's local storage, so when they return to the page, the comment appears, but no one else will ever see it. And that is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. You can subscribe to this show at twit.tv/TN2. You can also subscribe on iTunes or TuneIn or Stitcher or many other places. You can write to us at tn2@twit.tv. And you can watch, of course, live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. That's live.twit.tv. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I am Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.